Thank you everyone for coming. It's such an honor to be here today with artists and critics that I profoundly admire. And thank you, Jerónimo and Alex Alberro, for organizing this amazing event and for all the staff and workers of the Art Department institution that helped us putting this together. So Mapa Teatro is an artist laboratory dedicated to transdisciplinary creation. Mapa Teatro was founded in 1984 by Heidi, Elizabeth, and Rolf Abderhalden. We have today Heidi and Rolf with us, who are theater and visual artists from Colombia. For the past 40 years, Mapa Teatro has used the realm of live arts as a space for transgressing geographic, linguistic, and artistic boundaries, and for staging local and global issues through various thought montage operations. Mapa Teatro centers its interest in the creative processes of events in vivo, through the translation and transposition of writings and scenic scores, and in the operation of putting together documentation, archives, and fictions. Their prolific trajectory crosses several artistic languages and media: theater, opera, cabaret, sound and video installation, urban interventions, actions, and performatic conferences. All these languages are at the service of a poetic that explores national and historical myths, the intricacies of the public sphere, of memory and city, and document and fiction. In recent years, Mapa Teatro has focused particularly on the production of poetic political events through the construction of ethnofictions and the ephemeral creation of experimental communities. Mapa Teatro generates processes of artistic investigation and research which are developed in diverse spheres and scenarios of Colombian reality. At the same time that the group responds to Colombia's recent history and the violence that has marked it with critical and daring works that denounce the systematic obliteration of memory of the armed conflict, they are always concerned with the creation of a political consciousness of togetherness. That is, if the armed conflict inspires the fragmentation of the social fabric, their work draws a sense of belonging to the same fabric. As Sueli Honig puts it, what comes first in Mapa Teatro's work is affect, an affect that, although do not rely on a type of representation of reality, carries the ethical responsibility of coding vital and contradictory urgencies of the present moment. That is why Mapa Teatro describes their work as a laboratory of social imagination. This is actually the title of their recent exhibition at Banco de la República in Bogotá, which has presented for the first time an anthology of works of the group's works. Today, Mapa Teatro will present Discourse of a Decent Man, based on a supposed political speech found in the shirt pocket of Colombian drug trafficker Pablo Escobar on the day of his death. Discourse of a Decent Man constitutes the second section of the three-part work Anatomy of Violence in Colombia, which unfolded for 7 years from 2010 to 2017. Welcome you all, thank you, and let's start with Heidi and Rolf.
12 years ago, a black and white image of a man behind a microphone with the text underneath appeared on different walls and public places in the city of Medellin. Anyone in Colombia could identify that figure. The man who defined himself as a decent man who exports flowers is an icon of Medellin. The wealthiest criminal in history, having amassed an estimated net worth of US $30 billion by the time of his death in 1992, while his drug cartel monopolized the cocaine trade into the United States in the 80s and early 90s, Pablo Escobar, called the king of cocaine. This is how Wikipedia defines him. We are at the place, a theater, date, March 22nd, 2012, and time 8 p.m., announced on the poster. The theater lights go out. A woman, we can presume that she may be an actress or a presenter, steps out onto the stage, making her way through the red curtain. She greets the audience, looks for a man in the audience, and invites him to come up. She introduces him as an international expert on drug trafficking, member of the United Nations International Narcotics Control Board, and of the Committee of Scientific Advisors to the United Nations World Drug Report. The presenter asks a question about the current state of drug production and consumption, and the man answers, emphasizing the failure of the war against drug trafficking in the world. About 15 minutes have passed when in the middle of the room a man stands up and shouts, "When does theater start?" Thus begins the premiere of Mapa Teatro's Discourse of a Decent Man, second work of a series of stage performances, films, installations, and performative conferences gathered under the name of Anatomy of Violence in Colombia.
Colombia, a land of untold beauty and diverse cultures. Long famous for its well-prized coffee, tobacco, and cumbia music, has now become the world's #1 producer and exporter of cocaine. Despite 30 years of U.S.-led war on drugs and the fall of flamboyant drug lord Pablo Escobar, the traffic seems healthier than ever, with tens of millions of users and hundreds of billions of dollars of profit. No longer imported from Peru and Bolivia, coca leaves, the primary ingredient of cocaine, are now homegrown in practically all parts of Colombia.
Medellín, 2 de diciembre de 1993. En la carrera 79, número 45 de 91. Sobre un techo de tejas de barro yace el cuerpo de Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. Edad, 44 años. Raza blanca. Talla 1,66. Ocupación comerciante y dirección clandestinidad. Yace con la cabeza al suroccidente y los pies al nororiente. Decúbito lateral derecho, brazo izquierdo sobre la cabeza y la mano debajo de la misma. La mano derecha encima de las tejas en semiflexión hacia el sur y ambas piernas cruzadas hacia el oriente, la derecha en semiflexión. Vestía las siguientes prendas: camisa color azul oscuro con el cuello y los puños color vino tinto, pantaloncillos color blanco de marca Tripes, jeans azules claros con ambas botas del blue jean recogidas sin zapatos. Del bolsillo de la camisa se ha extraído un papel, del bolsillo posterior del pantalón una peinilla, una estampita del Niño Jesús de Tocha, un cassette y una fotografía de una persona sin identificar. ¿Qué contenía el papel encontrado en el bolsillo de la camisa del narcotraficante el día de su muerte?
In 1982, this man was elected as an alternate to the Chamber of Deputies. The liberal renovation movement supported Pablo Escobar's candidacy, arguing that his youth, his intelligence, and his love for the unprotected make him worthy. Pablo Escobar's delirium in his political phase led Mapa Teatro to search the archives of his speeches and public interventions and to visit all the places where we sensed the existence of archive remnants, such as the cemetery where he was buried in Medellin, the Hacienda Nápoles, the big farm, or the police museum, among others. Based on a recurring image found in television archives in which Pablo Escobar appears taking out and placing a piece of paper in his pocket, Mapa Teatro imagines the content of that paper as a speech that the drug trafficker would have begun to write secretly during his time as a congressman until the day of his death, and throughout the years he was hidden in the jungle under the effects of malaria. After collecting speeches and public interventions, written and spoken interviews, as well as notes from his personal diaries, Mapa invites an expert in rhetoric to use the collected material and compose a political speech that Pablo Escobar would deliver on the day of his election as president of Colombia. Since Greek antiquity, logographers are writers who are paid to compose speeches for other speakers to deliver. Logographers, in addition to seeking the effectiveness of the argument, are concerned with stylistic appropriateness. They try to compose speeches whose style responds to the psychological constitution and social situation of the client. They pay particular attention to the naturalness of the expressions and their conformity with the character of the speaker who will deliver the speech. Trying to preserve as much as possible the words, the ideas and projects of Pablo Escobar, particularly in political matters, the logographer gave us 20 pages that would be intervened by us in the manner of a classified secret document. Classified information is material that a government body deems to be sensitive information that must be protected. Access is restricted by law or regulation to particular groups of people with the necessary security clearance and need to know, and mishandling of the material can incur criminal penalties. The desired degree of secrecy about such information is known as its sensitivity. Sensitivity is based upon a calculation of the damage to national security that the release of the information would cause. The United States has 3 levels of classification: confidential, secret, and top secret. Each level of classification indicates an increasing degree of sensitivity. On a thin carbon paper sheet, we transcribe this speech, crossing out the classified phrases from the document and leaving the unclassified words legible. Once our document is classified as top secret, it is filmed in Super 8 format and converted into a declassified file.
Washington, 2 de diciembre 2011. Mucho se ha especulado sobre el contenido del papel encontrado en el bolsillo de la camisa del narcotraficante el día de su muerte. Este, junto con otros tantos encontrados por agentes de inteligencia militar en caletas de la selva, páginas enteras escritas en papel rayado amarillo, fueron entregados por el Servicio de Inteligencia Nacional a la CIA como un documento top secret, ultra clasificado para su estudio y custodia. Durante 18 años, la CIA mantuvo en reserva los documentos del estudio de este archivo hoy desclasificado y de un microfilm realizado por la CIA, también desclasificado. Ambos bastante borrosos y crípticos revelan que se trata de un discurso de posesión presidencial. Durante años, el narcotráfico tuvo la convicción de que llegaría a ser presidente de la República. Que quisiera ser presidente de la República, el narcotraficante más temido y buscado del planeta, no representaba una amenaza significativa para el Servicio de Inteligencia de los Estados Unidos, que ilustraba este gesto como una extravagancia más del delincuente colombiano. Pero las notas que componían el discurso de posesión se mantuvieron en reserva durante todos estos últimos años por la inconveniencia e impertinencia del tema que allí discurría: la legalización de la droga en Colombia.
The secret and its custody are a fundamental element of power, arcana imperi. It is about the affirmation and exercise of a power that, in order to be stronger, not only covers itself with secrecy, but extends the secret, the arcane, to reality and to the entire life. For power, everything is secret. Power always needs secrecy. There is no state, however liberal and democratic it may be, that does not have secret services, and the operation of these, very diverse according to historical situations, are always wrapped in a tenebrous aura in which the fight against evil is confused in the imaginary, but often also in reality with evil itself. Political life is full of secrets, of bloody mysteries whose truth is hidden and confused with an efficiency unknown in almost all human activities. The truth about the criminal mysteries of public life is known only when they no longer have any importance in the political struggle, when it no longer has any effect. The secret is revealed when it becomes harmless. For the custody of the secret, the labyrinth of false political clues, the destruction of the material, the falsification are not enough. The National Security Archive, NSA, is a non-profit, non-governmental archival organization located in Washington, D.C. It was founded in 1985 by journalists and historians working for government transparency and the lifting of state secrecy to investigate and unravel secrecy in the United States. NSA is a major user of the Freedom of Information Act and an advocate of the public's right to access government information. Its members consider themselves forensic historians of the truth. Today, they have the largest non-governmental collection of declassified documents in the world. The Colombia Documentation Project promotes the declassification of documents from different U.S. government agencies on the armed conflict, counter-narcotics operations, and human rights violations in Colombia. The Colombia Project was initially created in 1999 to access confidential Plan Colombia files able to declassify documentation of other facts related to the relationship between political violence, human rights, and drug trafficking between 1948 and 2010. The figure of the witness has been a constitutive element of Mapa Teatro's, its laboratory, working with what we call temporary experimental communities. At some point in the creation process, the figure of the witness is called as a need to give body and voice to the document and to produce attention, then strengthens the fiction by destabilizing the real. The force of a body discredits what we know about the one who puts it as a document and forces us to dismantle and reconfigure history. The body and the subjectivity that inhabits it is a living archive that never ceases to question us and to confront our ideas and certainties. With the need to find the right voice, not to represent Pablo Escobar, that job has been taken on by films and television series, But to present his discourse, we invited Jaco, a musician and activist from Comuna 13 in Medellin, to put his body and voice on stage for the reading of this real fake speech. Jaco belongs to that generation that experienced as a child the most acute violence of the drug war, particularly in the most disadvantaged communities of Medellin, the comunas, and grew up resisting with his activism as a hip-hopper to criminality and the paramilitary presence that invaded years later these districts. The speech is punctuated by the musical themes interpreted by a group of musicians from Medellin, the Marco Fidel Suarez Band, composed of 5 musicians and directed by Danilo Jimenez. This man, now 85 years old, was in the 80s and 90s one of the regular musicians of Pablo Escobar. He was invited with his band to play at the boss's private parties or at public events in the working-class neighborhoods of Medellin where Pablo Escobar used to give speeches. Certainly, this man, like thousands of others, has benefited from the Escobar system. He has even been able to survive thanks to this diabolical machine, but like so many others, he has also paid a high price, becoming one more victim. The presence of these witnesses, putting their bodies and voices on stage, has always triggered ethical questions about the care and attention of their presence within the scope of its exposure.
Every Sunday, we'd accompany the boss to give his political speeches around the working class neighborhoods. We'd also play at his private parties. We even played at the Nápoles Finca. Don't ask any question, they tell us. We never got involved in anything. They pay us for our work and see you later. It wasn't a secret to anyone. Everyone knew, absolutely everybody would go there. And I mean everyone. They tell us to be at such place at such time. We never knew who we'd be going with or where we'd be going. Sometimes we'd get there and there'd be no one there and they'd just say, doesn't matter, play anyway and charge us per hour. We'd play all day until dawn. Sometimes they ask us to play the same song all night long. One night, when we'd finished the gig, the boss asked me to play for 1 more hour. He never paid me for that hour. He still owes it to me. That was the last time I saw him.
Hemos vencido la envidia, el cáncer de nuestra nación. Hoy el pueblo reconoce la extraordinaria grandeza de mi poder. La voz del pueblo, que es la voz de Dios, ha sido por fin escuchada. Tuve que vivir encerrado, en cuevas, en galeras, en refugios, en marinas. Hoy gozo de una libertad absoluta. Yo soy el presidente de la República. Yo soy el símbolo de la unidad nacional. Yo soy el señor de todos los guerreros de la patria. El señor de los ejércitos.
In our ethnofiction exercise, the coca plant occupies a central place because of its significance as a sacred plant in the ancestral cultures of the Americas, and at the same time because of the use, exploitation, and commercialization of its psychoactive properties, the object of millionaire transactions in a world where cocaine has generated the creation of a true global enterprise of the financial capital. The sacred shaman plant of the Amerindian traditions, reduced to a demonized witch of our modernity, is present in the discourse of a decent man through a dancing figure, a body that evokes in its movement a possible ritual dimension still present in our culture, and, on the other hand, the gesture of those who crush it with the force of their feet while jumping on it. Concerned about decolonizing, depatriarchalizing the dominant male narrative that is imposed on the Escobar machine, we've introduced its animist presence as an attempt of friction of the fiction.
Hoy quiero sentar un precedente inédito en nuestros anales patrios. Voy a entregarle al país, a esta nación amada, todas mis tierras. Desde hoy constituirán patrimonio público. Decreto que todo lo que poseo en finca raíz ingrese desde ya al Tesoro Nacional. Comuníquese y cúmplase. Yo soy un hombre con inclinaciones de izquierda, aunque en ciertos momentos negocio que da de 1 a 500. No hay negocio que rinda más. Usted pone un pesito y se gana 500 pesos. La doble moral de la comunidad internacional ha permitido que las principales utilidades se queden en los países desarrollados y sean repartidas entre sus propias mafias. En esta cadena de transacciones son los comisionistas de bolsa, los banqueros, los aseguradores, los que juegan como en un casino con lo que algunos llaman dineros calientes, disfrutando de nuestro precioso oro blanco, la nieve de Colombia. Una reestructuración profunda del negocio por un producto de alta calidad, digno de consumidores exigentes. Sacaremos del camino intermediarios, comisionistas, comercializadores y distribuidores extranjeros que se apropien de las utilidades que deberían ser nuestras y perjudican así la economía colombiana. Equilibraremos la balanza comercial.
On a different day, we were entertaining at a party when suddenly the boss threatened 150 guests by taking out his gun and saying, "Everybody get naked now." I count 2, 3, and if someone isn't naked, I will shoot them. So the guests started taking off all of their clothes. When the boss looked at us and say, "You too," I say to myself, well, survival first, and say goodbye to dignity.
Sagittarius, Pisces ascendant, he was born with the planet conjunction Jupiter and Venus, known in astrology as a conjunction of the great benefactors. Addictions, grief, conspiracies, toxins, and jail are clearly highlighted on his birth card. When merged with Colombia's birth card, which was ruled by Neptune on that day, we can see incredible wealth, chemistry, and its products, escaping from reality, delirium, hallucinations, narcolepsy, anarchy, chaos, scandals, escapism, virtual realities, corruption, deception, conspiracy, a love for easy living, and the thirst for power. This is Erythroxylum coca reporting.
Creo profundamente en Jesucristo y en lo supremo. La ideología de nuestro movimiento en sí mismo
On the 17th February 1991, a car bomb filled with 150 kilos of dynamite exploded 50 meters away from La Macarena Ballring in Medellin, where the band of Don Danilo was playing. 3 of the musicians and Danilo Jimenez's wife died as a consequence of this attack. He was left gravely injured. My head was badly affected. I was lost and confused for 7 years. There is no other way to describe it. I would go out for a walk in the city and would get lost. It was very difficult to break out of that emptiness. I had to relearn how to speak, how to read, how to write. And so I started coming back little by little, like someone recovering from inebriation. Slowly I was coming back. So with this image of Don Danilo singing Amapola, the song he dedicated to his wife, we close this presentation. Perhaps all the montage operations that Mapa Teatro carries out using different media, supports and formats constitute the ethical, aesthetic, poetic, political gesture that our laboratory of artists produces and offers as a collective subject from its affections, that is, from and with the effects of the forces of life on our bodies, individual and collective. The production of fictions, speculative, critical, ethnofictions or fabulations, could be one option to give back to the real a possible form of reconstruction, a possible form of reenchantment, building the real, reenchanting the real fiction, the political power of the imagination. Thank you. So thank you very much, and we want to thank the invitation to all of you, the Department of History, of Art History, the Department of Latin American Iberian Studies, ISLAA, Jerónimo, Alexander, Luise, and Ana Luisa for your welcome. Thank you so much.